of the word paradox? Do you know what it means? According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a paradox is a statement that contains element that seems contradictory or that it seems contradictory to common sense but is in fact true, or most likely true. One good example of this, my favorite example, is the paradox of the nature of light. Now, if you remember your lessons from your physics, light exhibits nature of being a particle and a wave. Why is that contradictory? If light is a particle, it travels in a straight direction. If light is a wave, it travels in an up and down motion. Now, if light is a particle that goes in a straight line, how can light be a wave that goes up and down at the same time? So those things seem contradictory, but the paradox here is that they're both true. Light is both a particle and a wave. Now, it may sound nonsense, but that is science for you. That is physics. That is true. Now, such is the kind of paradox that we have when we encounter things that may seem difficult to understand or difficult to believe, and yet we just have to accept them because they're facts. It's very similar to the paradox of the cross that Paul is presenting in his second letter to the Corinthians. Welcome to day 5, our last first study of Paul's letter to the Corinthians. After his first letter, Paul visited the church community in Corinth, which he actually started. You can check the story in Acts 1:18. He checked how they responded to the letter that he sent them. And their response is not exactly what he probably expected. You know, it is one thing to accept what Jesus offers because Jesus offers eternal life, Jesus offers salvation, forgiveness. Those are good things. I mean, who doesn't want them? And Christians at Corinth believed what Paul preached. When Paul mentioned the good news about Jesus and what he bought for them through his death on the cross, they embraced it, they accepted it. They claimed to be followers of Jesus, yet they seem to have misunderstood what they truly accepted. And that is actually the cause of the many problems in the first place. Worse is that they used this misunderstanding, these misconceptions, to judge Paul, who planted the church there. They're thinking that if Christianity is like this, if this is the truth, then this should be at the pedestal. Then believers of Christianity has to be above the rest as well. That is actually why they're judging Paul. Because if you, Paul, if you are an apostle of Christ, how come you're in that lowly estate? I mean, you're not even rich. You don't speak well. Look at you. The Corinthians did not really say that, but I'm imagining they're probably thinking of that whenever they look at Paul, because look at you, man. Why are you like that? And which is why in the second letter to the Corinthians, Paul is explaining that this lowly estate that you're seeing from me, my sufferings, my lowly estate, you think this makes me unqualified to be an apostle of Christ. In fact, this is the message of the cross. Because the principle that I want us to understand is this. The message of Jesus' cross is foolishness to the world because God's ways and wisdom is different from man. Again, the message of Jesus' cross is foolishness to the world because God's ways and wisdom is different from man's. That's what Paul presented in his second letter. That's what Paul, in fact, in his first letter, he already said exactly those words, that the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But in his second letter, he seemed to have pounded so much more on that because he was being criticized for his poverty. He was being criticized for his lowly estate. And he was saying, you know what? I have so many things to brag. You want qualifications? I have all of them. Paul actually listed down all his qualifications, but he said, I considered all these things as rubbish, as garbage, because the standard of God is different from the standard of man. You know, the message of the cross is a symbol of punishment, a symbol of death. It's a symbol of defeat. And yet, when Jesus died on the cross, he turned the cross into a symbol of victory, a symbol of life. not just life, eternal life, abundant life. It's a symbol of victory, not defeat. Now, when you surrender your life to Christ, you become victorious. When you submit your life to Jesus, you don't lose your life. When you throw away everything and give it to God, you don't end up with nothing. You end up with everything. Those things, they seem contradictory. It may seem difficult to grasp. But that is the truth. Same as the paradox of the nature of life. When two things seem contradictory, it doesn't mean that only one is correct and the other one is wrong. Or you can't just say that both of them are false. The nature of life is a perfect example of the paradox that is actually true. You can just ask the scientists. Now, this, the wisdom of God, even though it doesn't make sense to the world, even though it doesn't make sense to many philosophies and wisdom of this world, this is the only wisdom that stands the test of time. This is the only wisdom that we need. And you know what? How Jesus taught Paul is how Paul is trying to teach the Corinthians. And it is an invitation, not just for the Corinthians, but for you as well, for us as well. Paul is inviting believers to reason with him, to reason with the things that he's saying. Because that's what Jesus did. He taught in a way that opens up the teachings to questions. Christianity is not afraid of questions. Christianity is not afraid of being challenged. Go ahead, challenge it. Go ahead, examine it. Check the evidence for yourself. This is what I truly believe. That Christianity is the best education. It's a belief system that does not teach you to just keep nodding your head and just follow blindly. It's a belief system that challenges you to think. It's a belief system that challenges you to examine, to reason. And that kind of wisdom, that kind of habit, that kind of practice is the kind of wisdom that will stand the test of time, that will help you, not just now, but even as you go on in life.